first is this: virtually every other country in the developed world, and many countries outside of the developed world, have a capital gains tax. Australia has a capital gains tax, Germany has a capital gains tax, the United States has a capital gains tax, China has a capital gains tax, and the list goes on and on. In the OECD, only Belgium and New Zealand don't. Now, you look at those countries like Australia and the United States, the United Kingdom, etc., etc. You know, are those countries where it's impossible to start a business, where people are punished, etc., etc.? Clearly not. It's that capital gains tax is actually a very normal thing in most countries. We're actually the ones who have been doing things differently by not having one. The second thing I would say is that those people are treating tax like it's a punishment. That's what they're effectively saying, and I reject that. What I say is that tax is the price that we pay for having a civilised society. It's how we fund our schools, our hospitals, our roads, our justice system, and many other things that are important for us. And when you have a tax system to fund those things, your job as a government is to make sure that it's as fair as possible. And I'll come back to this basic thing. If this person earns $100,000 from their salary, they pay tax on all of it. If this person earns $100,000 from the capital gain on the sale of a property, in many cases they will pay zero tax on it. Is that fair? That's the question that we're dealing with. The reality is that the vast majority of the things that government spends money on are things that all New Zealanders benefit from and need. You know, we have to have a defence force to keep our country safe. We spend money, billions of dollars on that. Most people in New Zealand believe that we should have a publicly funded health service so that if you're sick, you've got a hospital to take care of you or your family. We spend the vast majority of our money in social welfare. We actually spend on our elderly. We spend about $15 billion a year on New Zealand superannuation because we believe that our elderly should not live in poverty. Same with our schools, same with our transport system. That's where the vast majority of the money goes. And those things benefit all New Zealanders. So of course we can always look at making sure we spend the money in the most effective way possible. But I, personally as a taxpayer, I feel good that I contribute to those things, and I think in any civilised society you have to invest in those things through a tax system. One of the problems we have in the New Zealand economy at the moment is we have too much money going into speculation on housing, and we have too little money going to invest in the productive economy and businesses. You look at the balance of investment in our economy compared to other countries, and much more as a percentage goes into residential investment because it's easy capital gains. And you can look at newspapers in places like London and Singapore and Cape Town, and they have big advertisements where they say invest in New Zealand real estate, big gains to be made, no capital gains tax. Of course we've stopped some of that because we've stopped the offshore speculation, but that's where the money's been going. Actually, if we want good jobs and good incomes and economic development in New Zealand, I'm sorry, but residential investment does not create that. Investing in a great business creates that, and that's where we want the investment to be going, and actually getting our tax system right can help with that. And so we have 18 institutions or so who all design their own courses, have their own way of doing things.
You think it is a matter of waste of time or
quite a lot
resources?
Quite a lot of duplication. I mean, to be honest, if you're doing a carpentry course in Manukau Institute of Technology in Auckland, that course doesn't actually need to be any different from if you're doing a course at SIT in Invercargill. Yet all of these institutions do replicate and duplicate those kinds of things. And where has that led to? It's led to some real inefficiencies in an unsustainable sector. So late last year, the government had to write a cheque for $100 million because 3 of our polytechnics were basically facing bankruptcy. We've had to put an independent commissioner in at Unitec in Auckland because the books were just completely blown. You cannot continue to run a sector that way. That's what the previous government did. They just kept ignoring the problems and let them build up, and we're now having to deal with them. The student numbers have been down a little bit in recent times. It tends to be that
because of the immigration policy?
No, mainly it's to do with unemployment. So we have this situation where generally for polytechnics, if unemployment goes up, then there are people who can't get a job, and they're more likely to go into tertiary education. When unemployment is low, it tends to be a little bit harder for the polytechnics.
But statistics shows that the employment rate is quite high.
Yes, but that's what I mean. When the employment rate is high, fewer people go and study. So that does make it a little bit more difficult for the polytechnics. But the problems go beyond that. The numbers will always go up and down a little bit depending on the economy and the unemployment rate. The big issue is that they just have not been set up in a really sustainable way. And so, we have within the same city publicly funded polytechnics basically competing against each other and spending millions of dollars on advertising campaigns and things when they're all publicly funded and they should all be serving the same purpose, which is giving students a great education. Some of that to us just does not make any sense. So that's why we're looking at this new model. We will have much greater bringing together of the institutions to deliver the quality. And one of the particular problems we've had is the institutions in provincial parts of New Zealand have not been sustainable. So we'll be able to give them much better support, we think, if we go down this model. But the core job of those polytechnics, as I say, is to provide a really good vocational education for people here to fill the skill gaps that we have. And we have this enormous problem in New Zealand. We have all of these industries, we just don't have enough people. The building trades, nursing, and many other areas where we need people, and we're failing to train the numbers that we should. That again is a failing of the sector and something that we will look to address here. One of the things we're going to be doing is working far more collaboratively with local employers to make sure that in each region we're connecting with them, understanding their needs, and then trying to train enough students to be able to meet their needs. Basically what the group found is that 30 years ago we changed our education policy and we put a lot of responsibility at the individual school level. And basically the report has said that it's good to have local schools that reflect their communities, but actually we might have put a bit too much on them, and there are some things that we can probably free them up from so that they can really focus on serving their communities. And I can speak to this because I've been on my local kids' board of trustees. So I think it's really good we have local board of trustees with parents to look at how we can support the learning of the students. But to be quite honest, does it really make sense for the local board of trustees of volunteer parents basically to be making decisions about $1 million building project at the school? That's probably the kind of thing that you can do more sensibly at a regional level. Whether they've got the numbers exactly right in terms of how many hubs and how many schools, I think there's a legitimate debate around that. I maybe feel that maybe there should be some more hubs so it can be a little bit more localised. But that's a debate that we'll have at the moment. And all of the best education systems in the world that we have studied show that when you focus the education system on the needs of the child and recognise that they're not all the same, that's how you get the best outcome in terms of enhancing their learning and producing good citizens who can be creative and contribute to the country in different ways. That's what I want to get out of the education system. I know that our Minister of Education, Chris Whitkins, is also very, very focused on that. So that means a more flexible system. It means highly skilled and highly trained teachers. It also means we need to get the right resourcing into the education system. One of the things the review has said is that we might need to look at putting some more resourcing into certain places, and that's something that we'll consider as well. Look, this was obviously, the category was obviously closed down under the previous government back in 2016, and we've been really clear that we want to look at it as part of the broader package of immigration reforms. It's something that I'm keen to see that we do make some progress on. It's something that I've given my view to the Minister of Immigration, Ian Lees-Galloway, and I know that he's looking really closely at that alongside all of the other reforms that we're looking at within immigration. Any changes that we do make, we've obviously got to make sure that we've got the numbers in Parliament to make any change before anything happens, and we've got to make sure that each part of the system works with other parts of the system. So that's what we're working on at the moment. And at the moment, a range of immigration changes are under consultation, and the Minister has indicated that by around about the middle of this year, he hopes to have made firm decisions with that issue and other issues. I think there are a range of issues. So my observation of that visa category is that for most people it was a really important way of reuniting with their parents, and in particular people would often worry about their older parents maybe living by themselves back in their home country and worrying about their health and well-being, and so it was a really important way of bringing them there. There were also some cases, it was a minority, where the system was abused and people sort of brought their parents here and dumped them and then maybe left town, that kind of thing. I think that was one of the concerns at the time. I think, to be perfectly honest, the reason the previous government shut it down as well as they just sort of wanted to look a little bit tough on immigration at the time. But I think that's one of the issues that we need to work around. If it is to be reopened, we would want to make sure that we support the people who would be using it genuinely, but not allow the loopholes for the small number who might abuse the scheme. And that's the case with all of the different immigration categories and visas, of course. Well, look, it's my absolute privilege to be both a member of the government and an Under-Secretary for Ethnic Communities, and one of the things I enjoy most are my interactions and my time with the Chinese community. And I'll repeat what I said before, I am encouraged every day by the fact that we have dynamic, intelligent, creative and ambitious people in our communities, and that is most certainly the case in the Chinese community. Our role as government is to work with you to make this a country that is good for everyone, that's prosperous, that's fair, that has a beautiful environment, and that we can all be proud to raise our kids in. So I look forward to meeting with you and working with you to achieve that.